Welcome to another edition, another episode of the most interesting news in the world. I'm your host, Connor Hill. It is May 29th, 2024. And what the hell is the most interesting news in the world this week? Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I'm like, I can't even remember the last time I saw you guys. Did we talk about morality? Because if we didn't, we should have. And what really came up a lot at the Symphony and Possibilities class in Paris, and at the exact same time, the Are You Immoral, Amoral, or Amoral? And I'm sure a lot of that carried into the certified facilitator training in Rome. I was not there. Lots of people were. I could tell it was kicking some butt. And a lot of people were like, this is the best certified facilitators yet. I'm not surprised. Totally not surprised. So to wrap up this month, the best May yet so far, because my birthday's in May. And no, I'm not telling you when it is. What else do we have to talk about? What's come up? I didn't really have any plans for today, but I was like, must do it. So news flash, I went surfing last week, which was awesome. That's why my face is super red and dots and colorful, because even though it was freezing cold in France, freezing being like 18 degrees Celsius, which it's not really a freezing cold temperature, but I didn't have the clothes for it. So I was freaking cold. And the apartment I was in, the first night I was there, I didn't actually turn the heating on. So, man. And the reason I say it was cold, because now I'm in St. Petersburg, Russia, and it's warm. WTF? I'm like, the latitude doesn't even make sense, or longitude, whichever one it is. It's like France is all the way down here. St. Petersburg is all the way up here, like close to the North Pole. 1827. What? How does that make any sense? I guess it doesn't. But I think we're seeing a lot of that across the globe nowadays, where weather just is not making any friggin' sense. Oh my God. So, guess maybe we'll be talking about the fact that I'm a civil engineer. I say I'm a civil engineer. I'm not like a civil engineer. I'm just a licensed professional civil engineer, licensed in the state of California. Why is that important? Well, I worked a lot in the environment from, I guess, it's not that long, but when you spend all day, every day I started in 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 4 years. Nowadays, it doesn't seem like that long. But back in the day, it seemed like a long time. Very specifically kind of in rainwater, stormwater, even cleaning up, gas stations, because in gas stations, if you have the tank under the ground and that thing starts leaking, the gasoline gets into the groundwater and into the soil. Cleaned up some of those. I worked on water treatment plants. I worked on wastewater treatment plants, redesigning the entire infrastructure of not an entire city, but certain streets and neighborhoods. And really, I guess the biggest, I'm not really sure where we're going with this today, but it's like, one of the biggest things I've learned was, and the thing I thought most interesting, is hydrology. Now, the hydrology part, which is basically rain, like the study of rain, but not just rain, but how it moves once it hits the surface of the earth. And so it's both how it falls, where it falls, when it falls, how fast it falls, for how long it's falling, and what that equates to when it hits the ground and where it runs and goes from there. And the thing I think I found most interesting in all of that, not the thing I think I found most interesting, the thing I most definitely found most interesting is, number one, a lot of people called certain aspects of hydrology like black magic. They're like, that's not a science the way you calculate that. And it isn't. There's like no science behind it. And it's not even, it's like, it's so not even possible to put what you would typically consider science behind it, because it is literally, with the technology we have now, I don't even know if future technology could even do it. Impossible to actually say, like, this is how much it's raining. Now, I get you've seen your like Weather Channel and they're like, we expect 3 inches of rain. But when you've done the engineering side, and so when you've done the engineering side and you have to scale it down even smaller than that, and you have to be even more precise, why do you? Because you're not just telling the general public 2 inches of rain. No, you're dealing with like, okay, how many pipes do we have to put in? How big of pipes do we need to put in to carry all this rainwater? Not only that, the biggest element of all of that, that really, this is the part that I found most interesting, is where they tried to create law. Now, I'm sure every single one of you has heard about like the 100-year floodplain. Like, it floods to this point every 100 years. Here's where we're going to get interesting. And here's where I'm going to do some explaining, and I'm going to take some time. Some of you, this might hurt your head a little bit. I'm going to explain some things, and don't worry, it's not meant to make total sense the first time you hear it. Like, what I'm about to talk about is taking years and years and years and years and years of studying and crushing it down into a very small, short period of time. So if your head hurts as I talk about this, you're not wrong. If your head hurts as I talk about this, you might just be like, okay, you could even run a process like, everything that doesn't allow me to have total clarity and ease with this, destroy and uncreate it all. Time is gazillion. Right, wrong, good, bad, public, online, shorts, boys, puppets, and beyonds. Because what I'm about to talk about is very intense from the aspect of like, because even sciencey people that really want to get like a hard and fast answer can't fucking get it. It's not possible. And then you have people that aren't sciencey, that the second you really start getting into the details, the people that aren't sciencey is like, oh my God, la 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 la. So we'll see where we go. So, all right, 100-year floodplain. Why is there even a 100-year floodplain? Well, the beginning is insurance. It's important, right? Because you insure your house, and maybe you need to look at whether or not you're going to get flood insurance on your house. Now, I don't know where we're at today, but typically in the United States, an insurance company will not give you insurance on a house, or it's going to be really, really expensive if you are within the 100-year floodplain. Because what that says is it rains, it will flood in this area at least once in 100 years. That's what they're saying. Now, let me tell you right now, that is not the reality. Why is that not the reality? Well, number one is, in the United States, especially in most parts of the United States, like most, they don't even have data from the last 100 years. So you're really taking like, they're getting close to it. You're taking like 90 years and extrapolating. You're going like, okay, we're going to take 90 years of data and we're going to use math and we're going to calculate it and we're going to use that to explain 100 years. Yes. Now we have our 100 years. And you know, if the biggest flood in 90 years was this big, then the biggest flood in 100 years will probably be just a little bit bigger than that. Yes. That is how that will work. Well, the interesting thing is it doesn't actually work that way. And the people that are involved in the science know that it doesn't work that way. But the people in the insurance companies go, well, how do we value it? Because there is some, from their point of view, there is some level of like, well, it's flooding and and if like the house floods, blah, 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 and we got to put a value to it. So I realized that this probably exploded all of your brain. So everything that brings up for everybody, times the guides in, we're just trying to grade it all. Right, everyone, good, bad, pop, night, shorts, boys, POVEDs, and beyond. Cool. If you want more information from the clearings, if you want, that's called the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement. If you would like more information on it, please go to theclearingstatement.com. Okay, moving forward a little bit now. So basically what we got to come down to is, what the fuck is a 100-year flood? Now I'm going to use something different, because in my field, it wasn't the 100-year floodplain that was important. It was actually the 2-year floodplain. Okay, same idea, 100 years. Now we're working on 2 years. Not just floodplain, but the storm. So like, I live in Houston now, and Houston got flooded big time in like 2018, and people were going around saying, Houston got hit by 2 500-year storms. Like one came this way and one came this way. So it was just like, it was ungodly. Whether or not that's like scientifically true, I don't know. I didn't go check it out. But what that would really equate to is very large storms. My apologies. 2 very large storms. That's my scientific explanation for that. So, why do we need to talk about 2-year storms? So in my field, it was 2-year storms because you had to basically say, well, backing up. So the Environmental Protection Agency said, you need to make sure you have a level of service. You need your pipes in the ground and your whole systems, your stormwater drainage, your sewerage, all this stuff needs to be able to handle a 2-year storm and not have any hiccups. What's a hiccup? Basically, you can't have any sewer water or any wastewater ending up into the public waterways if you have a storm that's less than a two-year storm. Now, a 2-year storm isn't like a static thing. So first you have to figure out what a 2-year storm is, because, you know, a 2-year, let's go back to what you guys are more familiar with, maybe like a 100-year floodplain. 100-year floodplain in Arizona, where it doesn't fucking rain ever at all, and when it does, it like flash floods, is going to be totally different than a 100-year floodplain in, let's call it Costa Rica, where it just fucking rains all the time. That's why they call it a 100-year floodplain. They don't call it it rained this much floodplain. Now let's combine that with the knowledge they have of when you watch a weather person or you look on the app on your phone that says this is how much it's raining. And it says you're going to get 2 inches of rain today. Or you can even look at that little graph on your thing which says 40%, 50%, 60%, 70%, all these chances of rain, like 2 inches and 1 inch. And so there's something called time intensity. So you could do a time intensity of how much rain per hour, how much rain per 15 minutes, how much rain every minute, so on and so forth. Now, the interesting thing is, if you really study time intensity, when you look at a storm, you've all seen a storm, I imagine. And they're all, have you ever seen a storm that looked exactly like another storm? No. Right, exactly. Now, have you ever been in a storm where it rained a lot and then it rained a little and then it rained a lot and it kind of changed? You're like, yeah, I have. Yeah, well, so now imagine you're looking on your Google Maps of a city. Boom, you're looking at your city that you're living in from above. And there's a storm on top of it. Within that storm, do you think that it is raining the exact same amount across the whole storm? Like all the clouds. Here's the whole mess of clouds all over all of those. It is raining the exact same amount. Like you turn on the shower head and boom, it's just the same all over the place. Or do you think it's different? Well, if you think it's different, you are correct. It is different in all those different areas. So it's just like watching the clouds change above. Is the time intensity of the rain, you can't see my hands, like moves and shifts and changes and very cool stuff. So then you go, well, how the hell do you figure what? Exactly. So that's why a lot of like scientific people and the engineers will be like, that stuff they do with creating a 2-year storm, that's black magic, because it really is. They're just like voodoo, vini vidi vici. And a lot of people like, but well, essentially what they do is they go grab a storm. Like, okay, 1997, April 3rd, boom. We're comparing it to all other storms that we have on file, on record, and we're going to say we're using that as our 2-year storm. Because nowadays we use computers, and then you put all of your city's information into the computer, and then you click the information from that storm, because you even have all the data from that storm, and you've got good data from that 1997 storm, and you throw it in the computer, and the computer tells you, this is what's going on. Now, whew, mind you, one of the biggest things we also dealt with when I was a civil engineer, when I was like acting, I'm still acting as an engineer in a lot of ways, is that even no matter how good you think your data is, as far as the pipes in the ground, I told you, you put all that, put the, here's the water from the fresh water from the sky goes in this pipe, and the water in your toilets goes in this pipe. Now, why is that important? Well, especially in Boston, on the East Coast, in very old times, they used to just like, well, up in the United States, up until the early 1900s, you would flush your toilet and that would just go into the river that was nearest you. Or, you know, you had leaching fields. If you're in the middle of the nowhere and you didn't have a river, so they would just, it would just go out to the nature. But then, you know, as cities got too big, and it wasn't really so much that anybody cared about the environment. I'm sure plenty of people did, and a lot of people did, but nobody did anything about it until a massive hit of influenza. Pretty sure it was influenza, but a lot of people started dying and getting very, very sick, and they're like, it's probably because we're putting all of our poop and all of our industrial waste into the rivers. Okay, we need to do something about this. So there's still a lot of stuff that, you know, even that they couldn't find. Like, there's no database that just tells you, hey, there's a problem. You can't Google where's the nearest, you know, problem in the pipes where the sewage goes into the river. You can't Google that shit. It was put in the ground in the early 1900s, and you're like, or the late 1800s, and you're like, I don't know what's when, where, and why, and how. It's a whole freaking city. So a lot of cities are putting that information together so that you can hopefully put in, you know, hey, let me Google it, but it's still not nearly as good as what you might think when you're typing in Google. Whew. Like, definitely not nearly as good as your Google Maps. Okay. Like, you can't find the nearest McDonald's. You're like, where's the nearest McDonald's? It's not even that good because it's all underground. You can't see it. Pretty much what it comes down to. You have to like go through paper, right? Paper, and look at it. So I have no idea why I'm telling all of you this, other than maybe we will end up somewhere at some point. I think the end result is chaos. Yes. We'll see. That's my guess. But I'm not sure exactly where we're going with it. So where are we at though? 2-year storm, you use the old one, blah, blah, blah. So now we've got this whole thing. You got a sense of this storm dumping different kinds of amount of water, and it's constantly changing and so you've got this world trying to put order to things, trying to put some order to a world of total chaos, and trying to create some structure. And weather is just like, yeah, you can't structure me, which is just pretty much how it is. A lot of people are trying to, in Dubai, apparently they like make it rain. They like squirt some chemical in the air and then it rains. I'm like, yeah, that's a good idea, because 30 years from now, I'm sure people aren't going to like be growing a third eye out of their left ear. Whatever. So, what else do you guys require to know about all this? And you're like, well, why are you even saying this? Well, I find it really, I guess to me, the thing is, I find it really, really interesting, I guess, just how much we, and I mean we as in a collective bunch of stupid people on the planet, really need and desire to structure things. Ooh, wow. Like, and especially structure things in a totally chaotic world, right? Because I started talking about how France is cold and St. Petersburg is hot, and we all like to think that the weather is not going to change, or we're not interested in. Really, the biggest thing is just not being interested in actually being aware of what is going to change and what the future is going to be and what will actually be. um so so is the weather changing, like on the whole planet? Yeah. Yeah. Is it our fault? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, one of my favorite, if not my favorite tools from Access Consciousness is, what is it? What do I do with it? Can I change it? If so, how can I change it? Well, so what is it? Weather's changing. What can you do with it? What can we do with it? Well, to me, for one, I'm like, I can enjoy it. Number three, can I change it? Wow, I didn't think I could. I can't. And a part of what I get, what can I change it? If so, how can I change it? If so, how can we change it? For me, one of the things I totally get, one of them is to keep asking that question. Another one is to get totally present. So everything that doesn't allow you all to be totally present, which is not just present with the now, not like meditating, like la, 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 but getting totally present. Get present in your body, get present in your surroundings, get present with you as you get comfortable in your body. There you go. And this is something I've been doing a lot recently, and this is going to be very important as well, is get comfortable with your sexualness. And everything that doesn't allow you to get comfortable with your sexualness, we destroy and create all that. And I didn't say sexuality, totally different thing. Sexuality is judgment. Sexualness is not judgment. Sexualness is the energy of you and your capacity and your unique innate capacity and ability of for receiving. Ooh, yeah. Right, wrong, good, bad, pop up and in shorts, boys, put meds and beyond. And laugh a little, folks. Jesus, Moses. One of the other things is like, maybe actually take a little bit of an extra step, you know, take action. That was the call I did last week. Take some action. Like when I was in France, I felt like poo-poo. And there were some storms that made some awesome waves. So I got some cool surfing that pushed a lot of trash from the ocean up onto the shore. And I'm like, I bet this was not like this 15 years ago. I bet you never really saw trash on the beach 15 years ago, but now you do. There's a lot of people that don't care. I know a lot of people that act like they care that there's trash in the ocean, but they don't actually make any effort to reduce their own use of the plastics that are in it. When I say trash, I'm literally just saying plastics. It's all plastics. plastic bags, plastic wrappers, plastic. Now this is only the stuff that floats on top, because there's a whole other level of stuff that actually sinks to the bottom. L-NAPL and D-NAPL, those are the difference. Low density polyethylene versus high density polyethylene. That's L-NAPL and D-NAPL. Low density is always going to float on water. D-NAPL actually sinks. D-NAPL is like kind of the worst one, because you don't even fucking see that one because it sinks. So there's like a whole bunch of other stuff that you're not even noticing that's going on. And D-NAPL is used quite a lot also. L-NAPL is going to be floating on the surface. So the L-NAPL, all this L-NAPL, it's like an apple with an L, only a nipple, whatever. Ending up on the shores, and I was like, rah, 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 I can't believe it's like thoughts and feelings and emotions I've had about this kind of stuff in the past. And I'm like, who does this belong to? If you don't know that tool, I highly suggest you check out the app that Dan here made. Who does this? Just check out who does this belong to.com. And I just finally I found a bag that was washed up, and I started picking up trash. And the second I actually started picking up some of the trash on the ocean, on the beach, that had pushed off from the surface of the water, I was like, wow, I started feeling way better. I was like, wow, this is great. I'm just happier. And I used to not pick up any, L-NAPL that I saw on the beach or anywhere, just because I'm like, it's too, like, I thought I needed to complete, right? I'm like, I need to pick up the whole beach. Like, it'll take me forever, blah, blah. It's like reasons, justifications to not do it, rather than like, what if you just picked up one? Would it make you feel better? So I guess that's where I'll leave it today. That's what we're talking about today, is what action can you take today, even if it's just a little thing? And what if you didn't have to come to a conclusion like I was doing, like, I need to complete the whole beach? What if you just did enough to feel good? Or you just started? I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, I know about the giant floating islands of plastics in the Pacific and in the Atlantic. I can't do anything about it. I don't know what to do about it. What if you just, instead of asked a question like, what can I do about it? Can I stop ordering food delivery? Wait, maybe instead of ordering food delivery, just go to the restaurant. You will use so much less plastics if you go to the restaurant, rather than, eating from home and having them deliver all this plastic bag and plastic container and plastic. And if you're like, but Connor, I ordered one that's like plastic made from vegetables. All fucking plastics are made from vegetables. Sorry, but like, that's how it works. Oil was created from the decomposition, from decomposing plants and forests. That's how it got created over millions of years. So it's not anything new. Okay. Just because it's a different material doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing. And what if you just used less single-use stuff, period? Is it really in our greatest interest? That's just my interesting point of view. You do as you please. I didn't totally cut myself off. I'm not like, oh, I can't do that. But what can you actually do to create a greater future? That's my thing. Because environmental awareness, true environmental awareness, might not look like anything we think it might look like. I can tell you one thing is not going to have a conclusion. So that's it. That's all for today, folks. Environmental awareness. What environmental awareness can you be and choose today to create a sustainable future for this planet right away? Everything that doesn't allow that to show up for all of you times the gods, and we'll just turn on credit all. Right and wrong, good, bad, pock, all nine shorts, boys, povads, and beyonds. Thanks for watching. If you want to get kept up on all this kind of stuff, please go to my Telegram channel, Extreme Creation at Telegram, or just email me, connor@connorjhill.com. And I totally forgot to start this show with Hoşgeldiniz, which is too late because Hoşgeldiniz is welcome in Turkish. So instead I will say Görüşürüz, which is kind of like see you next time or something, I think. Görüşürüz. Bye-bye. Ciao. Hasta luego.